Here's a question that might make you a little uncomfortable. Have you ever told yourself, I'm going to start saving this month, and then didn't? Not once, not twice, but repeatedly, month after month, with full intention, full motivation, and somehow the same result every time. If that's you, here's what's interesting. You're not lazy, you're not bad with money, and you definitely don't have a discipline problem. You have a design problem, because the way most people approach saving money is fundamentally broken, not because the math is wrong, but because it ignores something far more powerful than math. It ignores the way the human brain actually works. And once you understand that, once you see the invisible force that's been working against you this entire time, saving money stops feeling like a battle of willpower. It starts feeling like something almost automatic. That's what this video is about. Not budgeting tips, not spending trackers, the actual psychology behind why saving fails and what to do instead. Let's talk about the most common saving strategy in the world. You get paid, you pay your rent, your bills, your groceries, you live your life. And at the end of the month, whatever's left over, you save that. It sounds completely reasonable, logical even. Earn money, cover your needs, save the rest. The problem is, there almost never is a rest. And it's not because people are reckless. It's not because they're buying too many luxuries. It's because of something called Parkinson's Law, a principle that was originally about time management but applies perfectly to money. Parkinson's Law says that work expands to fill the time available for it. If you give yourself 2 weeks to finish a project, it takes 2 weeks. Give yourself 1 week, it takes 1 week. Money works exactly the same way. Spending expands to fill the income available for it. When you tell yourself, I'll save what's left, you're unconsciously giving your spending permission to use everything. And your brain, being the brilliant, opportunistic system it is, will always find a way to fill the space. A dinner out, a small upgrade, a thing you've been meaning to buy. None of it feels reckless. All of it adds up. And so the month ends, the account is close to zero, and you tell yourself next month will be different. But next month, the process repeats because the strategy didn't change. This is the trap. And most people stay in it for years without ever understanding why. To understand why saving is so hard, you need to understand something about how the brain processes money. Your brain doesn't think in numbers, it thinks in feelings. When you see a price tag, your brain isn't doing math, it's doing something much more emotional. It's comparing the pain of losing that money against the pleasure of gaining whatever you're buying. Behavioral economists call this the pain of paying. And just like physical pain, it varies depending on circumstances. Here's a simple example. Imagine you're about to buy a $4 coffee. You tap your card, you don't even flinch. Now imagine someone asks you to hand them 4 individual dollar bills, one by one. Same amount. But it feels different, doesn't it? The physical act of counting out cash makes the loss more vivid, more real. This is why contactless payments, subscriptions, and app-based spending all make it so easy to overspend. They're specifically designed to reduce the pain of paying. When money leaves invisibly, your brain doesn't register the loss the same way. Now here's where saving enters the picture. Saving, by definition, asks you to feel the pain without getting any immediate pleasure. You're handing something over, real money, real purchasing power, and receiving nothing you can see, touch, or enjoy right now, just a number going up on an app. For the modern human brain, wired for immediate reward, that trade is genuinely difficult. It's not weakness, it's biology, and it gets more complicated. There's a cognitive bias called present bias, the brain's strong preference for rewards that are available right now over rewards that are available later. It's similar to what we discussed with investing, but it shows up even more aggressively with saving, because saving has no reward cycle at all. You save, and then nothing exciting happens. The money just sits there. This is why motivation alone never works for saving. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions are short-lived. You feel fired up about saving right after you watch a video like this, or right after you check your account and feel the familiar low-grade anxiety. But motivation fades within days, sometimes hours, and then the default behavior returns. The brain always returns to its defaults. So the question isn't how to stay motivated. The question is how to change the default.
Here's the deeper truth that most financial advice completely misses. Saving is not a math problem, it's a systems problem. Think about it this way. Imagine you want to drink more water every day. You know it's good for you, you're motivated, but every time you feel thirsty, you have to walk to the kitchen, find a glass, turn on the tap, and fill it. Some days you do it, some days you grab whatever's closer. Now imagine you put a full glass of water on your desk every morning, right next to your keyboard. No decision required, no effort. It's just there. You'd drink more water, not because you got more disciplined, because you changed the environment. This is called choice architecture, the idea that how options are arranged shapes the decisions we make, often without us realizing it. It was developed by behavioral economists Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein, and it explains more about human behavior than almost any other concept in psychology. When it comes to saving, most people have terrible choice architecture. Their default is to spend. Saving requires a separate, deliberate, effortful decision every single month. And every time something competes for that money, a bill, an expense, a temptation, the spending default usually wins. The solution isn't to try harder, it's to flip the default. Here's a powerful example of this in action. Several years ago, researchers studied retirement savings enrollment in large companies. In some companies, employees had to actively sign up to contribute to a retirement plan. In others, employees were automatically enrolled and could opt out if they wanted to. When sign-up was required, participation hovered around 40 to 50%. When automatic enrollment was the default, participation jumped above 90%. Same people, same financial incentives, wildly different outcomes, just by changing what happened automatically. Your saving habits work exactly the same way. If saving requires a monthly decision, it will lose to spending most of the time. If saving happens automatically before you ever see the money, it wins almost every time. There's also something called the fresh start effect, the psychological tendency to feel more motivated to pursue goals at the beginning of a new time period, a new month, a new year, a birthday, a new job. This is why people are always going to start saving next month. The fresh start feels real and motivating in the moment. But here's the problem with relying on fresh starts. They depend on motivation, which fades. And they reset the clock constantly, which means you never build the one thing that actually makes saving work long-term, a habit so automatic you don't even have to think about it at all.
So what does this actually look like in practice? The first shift is structural. Stop saving what's left. Start spending what's left after saving. This sounds simple, but it requires a real change in how you set up your finances. The goal is to make saving the first transaction of every pay cycle, not the last. The moment your paycheck lands, a fixed amount moves automatically into a separate savings account. Not a savings account you see every time you check your balance. A separate account, ideally at a different bank, where the money is slightly less visible and slightly less convenient to access. Out of sight, out of mind is not a flaw in human psychology. It's a feature you can use deliberately. When money is easily visible in your main account, your brain treats it as available. When it's sitting in a separate account with a different login, it mentally shifts into a different category. It starts to feel less like spending money and more like a number you're watching grow. That psychological shift matters more than people realize. Now, how much should you automate? Start with something that barely hurts. Even 5% of your income, even $50 a month. The amount matters far less than the habit at the beginning. Because here's what happens when you automate a small amount and leave it alone. You adjust. Within 2 or 3 months, you've completely adapted to living on the slightly smaller amount. Your lifestyle barely changes, and now you have a working system. Then you increase it slightly and adjust again, and increase again. This is called habit stacking with incremental progression, and it works because each small adjustment is below the threshold of real discomfort. Your brain never sounds the alarm. You never feel like you're sacrificing. One more thing, label your savings accounts. This sounds almost too simple, but the research behind it is fascinating.
When people name their savings accounts, emergency fund, new car, travel 2026, house deposit, they are significantly less likely to raid those accounts for impulse spending. The label creates a psychological identity for the money. Spending it stops feeling like using your savings and starts feeling like stealing from a specific goal. Your brain responds to stories, not numbers. Give your money a story. Let's come back to where we started. You've probably tried to save before. You've set intentions, made plans, maybe even had a few good months. And then life happened, or motivation faded, and the pattern reset. That's not a character flaw. That's what happens when a human brain built for immediate reward is asked to consistently make long-term decisions through willpower alone. It almost never works, and it was never supposed to. The people who are genuinely good at saving aren't better humans. They've just built systems that align with how their brain works rather than fighting against it. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on automation. They don't try to spend less. They make saving happen before spending is even possible. They don't set goals. They set defaults. And here's the quiet truth underneath all of it. Saving money at its core is about creating freedom. Not just financial freedom, though that matters enormously. It's the freedom of having options, of being able to make decisions based on what you actually want, rather than what you can afford in the moment. Every automated transfer, every labeled account, every month you let the system run without touching it, you're not just accumulating money, you're buying future choices. And those choices, when they arrive, will feel like the luckiest thing that ever happened to you. But it won't be luck. It'll be the system you built, quietly running in the background, doing its job while you lived your life.